Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Nedarim Daf Nun Zayin, starting with a new Mishnah. If a person says konam peros ha'elu alai, making a very specific konam, saying that certain specific foods or fruits are going to be hektish, or a similar language, konam hein alpi or konam hein lefi, each of these are considered equivalent cases. Then once that's true, that specific item becomes asur, then asur b'chilufeinu v'gidulein. Then even if you do a chiluf, you trade, you barter, or if you plant the seeds from that thing and then it grows more things, they're all going to be asur. The konam is very powerful and it's multi-generational, as it were, and anything that it will be switched for or that grows from it will be asur, just like the primary item. However, if the line that the person says to make a neder on themselves was a little more broad, not specifically food X, but shani ochel v'shani toem, I'm not going to eat those foods. So then that limitation only applies to the initial food, but not to the chilufein v'giduleim, mutter v'chilufein v'giduleim. However, says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, all of this is only true b'davar shezaro kala. This is only true for seeds that when they are put into the ground, they end up disintegrating. Now we know that there are seeds that disintegrate in order to grow. People use this as a mashal. You have to break yourself down in order to build yourself up. But there are seeds like that, apple seeds. Many of the seeds that we're familiar with do that. However, says the Gemara, about v'davar she'ein zaro kala, if we're dealing with seeds, let's say, for example, a bulb of, when we were little kids, I think we planted chives in the backyard or something, but I remember seeing bulbs that you could just plant and they don't disintegrate. They just grows from the bulb. So that's different. And the Gemara says in those cases, because the etim, it's growing out of the thing that you said was asur. It's not degrading and becoming a new chefza. It's the chefza. You took a bulb, you stuck it in the ground, and it's just growing from it. All of that's the same exact thing. They knew a lot about botany. They knew the distinctions and different types of seed structures, and it's amazing. They knew so much information. The Mishnayos were written 2,000 years ago, came out 2,000 years ago. So that's quite a bit of information to know about.
As long as scholars?
What? Mishnayos were written, and where they were done being put together by 220 when Rabbi Nasi died. So let's assume for the 300 years, 400 years before that, going back before what we call year zero. So they knew. They didn't know because they were botanists. They knew because it was halacha, and they got the halacha from Moshe. Moshe Kibel, Sinai, Sarli Yeshua v'chule. Next case, 5 lines down. This is a very long Mishnah. The whole first Amud plus is a Mishnah. Haomer liishto, if a man says to his wife, "Kona ma'aseh yadayech alai," I'm not going to benefit from the money that you bring into the house. I don't know why he would say that. Konim hein alpi or konim hein lefi. All of these are equivalent languages. In that case, asur b'chilufein v'gidulein. Wow. Then he's not allowed to benefit from a barter. Let's say she comes home with silver coins and she trades them for copper coins or whatever the case may be. That's not allowed. He can't benefit from that either. And also from gidulein, if let's say her proceeds were an apple tree, he's not allowed to benefit from the gidulein, from that which grows from the apple tree. And here too, in case number 2 in our Mishnah, the Mishnah adds the caveat that this is only true with davar shezaro kala. This is only true with seeds that actually disintegrate. Aval davar she'ein zaro kala, same as before. Afilu gidulan asurin. Even multiple generations of growth would still be asur, because just like in the first case, when you're dealing with a bulb, when you're dealing with a seed that doesn't disintegrate, you're still dealing with be'etzem, the same original item that you asured. And because the same item that you had originally asured is still intact and just producing and producing. So therefore, it would have to be asur no matter what. So the only leniencies that apply in our Mishnah so far are in cases where the seed disintegrates. Doctor, you had a question or no? You had a question?
I was thinking about something that probably wasn't applicable back then. What about a watermelon, a seedless watermelon, or seedless grapes? What they would have done with that?
Well, in that case, the question is going to be much easier, because we're definitely not talking about the item that they forbade. We're only talking about secondary items. Like, let's say I barter the watermelon for a cantaloupe. So if I say I'm never going to eat that watermelon's for sure off limits. The question is, what if you barter it, or what if it has seeds? So without the seeds, you remove one of your questions. It becomes a little bit of an easier case, a little bit easier. A little bit more than halfway down, 2/3 of the way down in the Mishnah. Continuing on the theme of the husband and wife restrictions, Sha'at oseh eini ochel ad haPesach. Whatever you make, I will not eat until Pesach. Sha'at ose eno miskase ala Pesach. Any garments that you make, any blankets, whatever it may be, I will not be miskase. I won't wear them, cover them. It could be a blanket, could be a shirt. I won't benefit from them. And if that's the neder that he makes, then asasa lifnei Pesach. If in fact she made them before Pesach, muter lechol ulihis kasos only achar Pesach. That makes perfect sense because he said up until Pesach, he gave an upper limit. A different iteration. Sha'at ose ad ha-Pesach, that which you make up until Pesach, any ochel, I will not eat, with no upper limit of time of eating. He gave a time frame on the making of the food. And similarly, V'sha'at ose ad ha-Pesach eni miskase, any clothes that you make between now and Pesach, I won't wear. So, if in fact, asasa lifnei ha-Pesach, she checks the box of his neder, that she in fact makes these garments or makes these foods prior to Pesach, then asur lecho lulis kasos achar Pesach, with no upper limit. It's always going to be asur to do that. Why? Because he didn't put an upper limit on his neder. The neder was simply, whatever you make between now and Pesach, I won't benefit from, and that's in perpetuity until he's shol on the neder, until, I don't know, maybe never.
Wait, Pesach is the end point.
No. He says anything that you make between now and Pesach, I won't benefit from. So the making of the food or the item, if it's made between now and Pesach, that triggers the neder that I could never use that item, even after Pesach.
No, stupid.
Not stupid, you. These cases, I read this Mishnah 6 times. It's like a lot of, each case is like a sliver. It's not a stupid question at all.
But if that garment, he's gonna be wearing it for Pesach, but he obviously has to get dressed before Pesach, is it still gonna be an issue?
For
In
sure.
5 minutes before Pesach to come to shul?
For sure, because his neder was, if you make an item between now and Pesach, it's asur b'hana to me. It's asur b'neder to me. I'm not allowed to use it at all. So there is no 5-minute window. If you made it before Pesach, which by definition, if you have Pesach clothing, by definition, it was made before Pesach. It's completely asur. It's an asur d'oraisa to wear those clothes. Next case, 2 lines from the bottom. She'ad ne'anesli ad ha-Pesach. I'm not going to get any benefit from, you're not going to get benefit from me. Im holeches at lebeis avicha ad hachag. If between now and Sukkot, which is after Pesach, you go to your father's house. We call this domestic abuse, just FYI, in case it ever comes up. To restrict a spouse's movements based on threats is probably a bad idea. So that's what he says here. And if in fact, if in fact she did what he said not to do, then that triggers the neder. And then asura behana also ad Pesach. Then she is then restricted from hana, from her husband. Turning to the top of Nun Zayin Amud Beis, la'achar Pesach, then bival yachil. If she goes to her father's house after Pesach and before Sukkot, so then she violates the Isser of Bal Yachil because he put a restriction on her that she's not allowed to do that. Sha'at ne'anesli ad hachag, a similar case. You're not allowed to benefit from me between now and Sukkot. Im holeches at lebeis avicha ad Pesach. It's just the reverse case of the Chagim are reversed. Then halcha lifnei Pesach asur banaso ad hachag umuteres lelecha achar Pesach. So here, if she went before Pesach, then she's asur bana until Sukkot. But mutter, she's allowed to go after Pesach because his upper limit on restricting her was only until Pesach. All right, we're going to be starting a very lengthy back and forth. It's actually one very long question. We're not going to finish it tonight. It's like a blot of question, but it truncates reasonably well, so it's not going to be like totally up in the air when we end tonight. But the Gemara is going to start. What?
We're gonna have a cliffhanger on one.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, let's go for it.
Come on, let's see.
Right.
No matter what you say.
Yeah, it's true. 4 lines down, Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis, the Gemara opens quoting our Mishnah. Ha'omer li'ishto konim maseh adayach alai, konim hein alpi, konim hein lefi. We said that if a person makes these commitments about his wife. So the Gemara is going to ask you a question. Yishmael ish kfar yama, Yishmael from the city of Kfar Yama, ve'amrei la ish kfar dima, maybe a different location. He'ela biyodo. He came up with a question in his hand. In other words, he had a kasha. Says the Gemara as follows. Batzal, if you have an onion, she'akru b'shvis, it was in the ground during a shvius year, and you pulled carefully and the bulb came out of the ground, and then v'natu b'shminis. And then you planted it back in the dirt, but in the 8th year, in a non-Shemitah year. So now, the primary growth took place during a Shemitah year, but now that it was replanted in a non-Shemitah year, this bulb is growing again. All it needs is dirt and water and sun. And then when it was in the ground in the 8th year, the Gemara says a quarter of the way down, V'rabu gidulav al ikaro. The growth that took place in year 8 was greater than the growth that took place in year 7. This is the question the Gemara that Rabbi Shmuel was posing, or I should say Yishmael. It's not Rabbi Shmuel, it's a different person. Do we say gidulav heter v'ikaro aser? Do we say that, yes, we know that there's more growth now than there was then? We know that, let's say that there's 6 inches of growth. We know that the first 2 inches were grown in the Shemitah year, and the next 4 inches were grown in a non-Shemitah year. Says the Gemara, do we say that Kevan de Rabu Gidulav Me'ikaro, since the growth that took place in year 8 is greater than the growth that took place in year 7, therefore, Osan Gidule Heter Malin Aseser, and therefore, the 4 inches trumps the 2 inches, and then it all becomes mutter? Oh, lo. Or do we say no? You can't do that. You can't do that. It's all going to actually be usher because it's all growing out of one bulb. So let's just repeat his question. The question is that in year 7, it's a Shemitah year. I have a bulb, an onion, it's growing from the ground. So the shoots are coming out of the ground. And then I pluck it out during year 7, and I wait until the clock ticks, and into the 8th year after Rosh Hashanah, I put it in the ground, and it could be the same spot, actually. It doesn't matter where it is, because it's not Shemitah year anymore. And then it's growing again. And now 2 inches before Rosh Hashanah, and now in year 8, it grows another 4 inches, totaling 6 inches. Do we say that the growth in year 8 trumps and overrides the ikar, what grew in year 7, thereby making all of the food non-Shemitah food, mutter? Or do we say that no, the 4 inches of onion that grew in year 8, they all came from a year 7 bulb, and therefore it's usher? That's his question.
But the bulb is the bulb. It's the same from year to year.
But it's batel. It's been overridden by the growth.
No, but I'm saying it's not a Shemitah bulb, because it's the same bulb over and over and over again.
I don't know how to, the Gemara is not, I don't know. You're asking like the cause and effect question, who made the first bulb and how do you create more bulbs? I don't know the answer to that, but it had to be, how do you create a new bulb in an onion? How does that work?
Actually, I've grown those onions at home. What happens is the onions grow really tall, anywhere from 1 to 5 feet, depending on the variety. And the little bulbs form up at the top of the onion. They don't grow underground. They're formed way above ground, right at the tip.
Okay, there's your answer.
You just take them and replant them. That's what I did. Regular onions. These are when I have this giant African scallions that are 5 feet tall, and I've been propagating them for 45 years.
You've been what though?
Propagating. Go read a book. Please go read a book. Do everyone a favor and read a book with words and not pictures. You need to read a book with words.
Doesn't matter which one.
Yeah, I actually, my 4-year-old has one. He's just starting. I'll send it over to the house. It'll be great. So this is the Gemara's question to you. To your response, in the Shemitah year, in the 7th year, that new bulb grew at the top, and then he stuck it back in the ground. Okay, there has to be an answer. Right? That's what the Gemara says.
What year grew versus what year is picked, right? What are the laws again? Doesn't that come into play somehow?
Not in this case, no. Because here,
you picked it prematurely. In other words, if it goes by the year that it's ready to count.
no, but it was picked in a way that it would have been usher. It was picked during the 7th year. I pulled the bulb at the end of the 7th year.
I'm saying if right, but if Shemitah would apply, if it was only once it's ready and it's ready to be picked. Here,
Right. We did learn this in Shas somewhere. I don't remember all the.
Okay,
We learned it. Not that that's helpful, but it's, we did. Yeah. Why don't you ask the person who gave the shiur and see if he remembers? So the Gemara says, or Binyamin, that's a much better bet. Much better bet. Much better bet. So the Gemara provides answer number 1 that will kind of sort of be rejected. Halfway down, Nun Zayin Amid Beis, Asa lekame de Rav Ami. They went over to Rav Ami, very early Amora. Lo hava biyadeh. He did not know the answer to this question. Answer number 2, Asa lekame de Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, and Pashad le min hada. Again, a unique language only found in Nedarim. He gave an answer from the following statement. What is the statement that Rav Yitzchak Nafcha finds his answer in? To Amar Rav Chanina Trita, Amar Rav Yanai. Batzal shel truma shenatu. A batzal, which is truma, so you can't eat it, right? And you planted it. And then v'rabu gidula v'alikaro mutter. Oh, so the Gemara gives a beautiful answer. You have a bulb of an onion that is absolutely truma, and you're not allowed to eat it. And then you plant it, and the bulb that was only 2 inches now grows to a total of 6 inches. And the Gemara says it's now mutter, it's not truma anymore. So what do we see? We see that there's an override. We see whatever the lumdus is, a bittul, is a change in Messias. I don't know. We have to look in the Rishonim. I don't know the answer to that question. But the Gemara says over here that it's mutter. So therefore, we seem to have an answer. If we bring this back to where we came from, we started with a question about 10 lines down that wanted to know if I took an onion out of the ground in a year of Shvius and replanted in the Shminis year, and it grows more than the original size, then the trump card, we're good to go. Should be fine. And the Gemara 2/3 of the way down says, we have a problem. And normally when we ask questions, you can ask a source against the source question. This is a very unique question. Listen to this. Amar le Rav Yirmiyah v'item Rav Zrika, Shavik mar train v'avid kechad. You're rejecting a shita that applies to 2 amoraim, and you're only going with the shita that's 1 amora? In other words, I have 2 amoraim that don't agree with you. You picked 1, but I have 2 mari makomos against you. And the Gemara presents the mari makomos against him. Man ninhu train. What are the 2 opinions that don't agree with you? Well, here's number 1, 10 lines from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Abo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Yolda shesivcha bezekena. There's a new tree, which is in the phase of orla, so it's aser. And it was sivcha, it was grafted, bezekena, with an older tree that doesn't have a din of orla. Uba peiros. And after the grafting, that new branch brought out some fruits. Afal pisho sifa masayim, aser. Even though there was growth here, we still say it's aser. So this amora doesn't agree to the trump card factor. That's marimakom number 1.
Grafting was this in the first place.
Not, but the point here is that the trump doesn't work. So you're correct. But the point here is, well, different meaning. It doesn't work. You can probably do 2 oranges. I think you can do like 2 of the same.
Same meaning?
Huh? I'm not 100% sure. I have a feeling that that's what it means. I'm pretty sure that that's mutter. That's how we get all the different iterations of. Otherwise, it should be usher to eat. Right. I mean that we have grafts. I don't know. Everything we see in the store is probably grafted. I don't know. Okay. So if it's a chefs to I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyways, either way, the Gemara says the trump card doesn't work. And here's another Mari Makom. Here's the second Amora that is stacked against our initial response. V'amar Rav Shmuel bar Rabbi Nachmani Amar Rav Yonasan. Batzel shanatu bekerem. If you have an onion that's planted in a vineyard, right, then you have, that's kiloi hakerem, that's aser. V'ne'ekar hakerem, and the kerem was then removed. So now it's growing on its own in a place where there is no kiloi hakerem, aser. Even if it grows enough, it's still going to be aser. So these 2 mari makomos, the Gemara accepts this rejection. We had said, I have an answer, the beautiful mari makom. We had said from the case of truma that if it's truma and it grows more than its initial size, trump card, it's mutter. The Gemara says, wait a second, we have 2 amoraim that don't agree with you. How could you pick the 1 over the 2? I don't know. That sounds strange to me. That sounds very weird. We see this all over Shas. there's plenty of opinions on all sides of the aisle. The Gemara accepts this and therefore pivots. Hadar asa l'kamei de Ravami. He went back to the first person he spoke to. What did Ravami say the first time? Lo hava biyadeh. He didn't know the answer. All of a sudden, Ravami had an epiphany. Upashit lemin hada, and he answered the question from here. To Amar Rav Yitzchak, Amar Rav Yochanan, litra bitzalim shetikna v'zara. If you have a collection of onions that were tikna, they were truma, and now they get planted again. So they've already been metaken, right? So there's no chiyuv truma anymore. It's not tevel anymore. It's mamish mutter to eat. And then it grows mis aseres lefikula. Then you have to give meiser on everything. So that shows you trump card. The new status of a fruit that grows from the ground is truma. Afal pi that the bulbs you planted were metaken already. So the Gemara says, Alma, osan gidula mevat lenikar. So here we see another raya as to the fact that there is a trump card of the later to the prior. Here we see that you're chayiv in meiser, even though it was metukan, even though it was fixed before you ever planted it. To this. I don't even know what you're talking about. No. Wasn't it Rav Yonasan?
Yeah, the first one was Yonasan.
No, he's right.
Of course he's right.
Untrained. Amar Rabbi Abba.
Was he open or the honest?
Passer. Pishas Masayim. Very good. Very good. Yitzchak Amar Rabbi Yochanan. He says that the trump card does work. Beautiful question. It has to. I mean, I'll give a balabatish answer of Trey. I'm a roy. I leave it to Rabbi Yochanan. Doesn't mean I'm right, but great pickup. I didn't even catch that. That's beautiful. But the Gemara rejects this answer too, and we're going to stop with this question and then pick up again tomorrow with a blot and have Dilma l'chumra shiny. Well, you can't necessarily bring a raya from here. By the way, this answer also answers up what you just said. The Gemara's answer right here says you can't bring a raya from the case of meiser because it could just be a chumrah that we're adding on meiser from the new produce, even though the dina maybe it's not required. Therefore, maybe the two shitas of within Rav Yochanan are actually on the same page. It's just a chumrah. One is ladina, ikar adin, and one's a chumrah. We'll stop right here. We'll pick up on the last line of Mirz Hashem tomorrow night with Daf Nun Ches and Nun Tes Amud Aleph. Wishing you all a beautiful night.
And pray for no.
Beautiful size.